Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the drill partner is perfect for you.
Well, I mean that went well, right? That went pretty good, I'd say, or not say. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me and see me all right. Josh, somebody says, "What did Jason Sword say?" We're gonna get to that, buddy, here in a minute. Although actually, I'm probably not gonna get to that, but I'm sure we can go on and address it to some extent. Uh, they got a bit of a history there, that's for sure. Anyway, yeah, 4-0 in favor of Team Europe. In case you guys are just waking up, Matt Poland says all good and all clear. Who saw that coming? I said 3-1 USA. These motherfuckers may not even get to three in general by the time this Mosconi Cup is done. I know I'm a little bit fired up about how the day went, and I'm sure this guy is as well. Raymond, welcome back to the show, buddy. How are you?
I wanted to ask you: did you inherit Dominic Dunn's, betting ability curse thing? Because you said yesterday, last time you picked Team USA to win, they lost 4-0.
Well, like I mentioned to a buddy of mine, Dino, I said, like I bet on Team Europe and I laid weight and all that, with a few guys. And so, but when I saw the lineups genuinely, and
I agree.
I said this with the buddy of mine from my buddy Brett from Cuetec, whenever we were talking once the lineups came out, because he was out there in the UK, and I said, man, I like where they're at. Like I sincerely did like where they were at. Now, obviously, everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and we're going to get into all that match by match, player by player. But when I saw on paper the way that it was set up, I thought Jason took a bit of a gamble. I thought it was the Americans' opportunity to go and pounce. I thought they did get opportunities, but they did not go and pounce. They did not take advantage. They completely fell apart. It looked when it turned 2-1 in favor of 2-1, the Americans were leading over David and Filler. It looked like it was over, and they were still trailing in that match. But that's when it felt like it took the life out of me, because even though they were up 2-0 in the Americans, it was the Europeans that gave it to them. So if they don't give them that, they probably end up beating them 5-0. And so, but that's when it felt like, and it was from the guys who usually do check out. You needed them to go and step up. Matt Poland says he still believes, but yeah, I mean, leading into the day, I genuinely thought on paper that the Americans had a good chance. They had, and again, Tyler and Billy will be Tyler and Billy, but up until that point, I felt like you got it in as best you can. You had to go hard and heavy.
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to when you're out there, you have to be able to execute.
For sure, yeah.
You got to give yourself an opportunity to build momentum. And every time there was a chance to start, there was a let off, a missed ball that you should never miss. Like there's certain things that when you're playing top level opposition, you have to do certain things to a par. And then you're looking for advantages that you can pull here and there. So you have to get to an even place. You got to break even with them off the break. You have to be able to break and at least defend yourself. So you have a look at a ball, even if you're not getting
fail there. They didn't break well.
No, they didn't. And and then you have to be able to just, when the balls are open, you got to be able to run those balls and clear the tables. And I felt like that first team match, there's a couple opportunities there where things slipped away and the match kind of got away from you. Federer, I think in that match only hit one ball. He broke one time and scratched because Jason broke and ran the first time, and then Federer broke and scratched, and that's the only.
Listen, this is the difference between guys who do it in that arena and Jason. Like Jason will talk the talk and get a lot of ridicule, especially during this time of year, as far as running his mouth and being an asshole and being this or being that. But he backs it up, and he backed it up right off the bat. And I like the idea of sending out Federer in there in that spot, because it does go and send a message. But unfortunately, it was a message that was sent the wrong way, because Jason did what Jason does. And listen, I don't want to keep on going back to the idea of preparation here, but somebody needs to tell the Americans they're not good enough to only practice for a few days leading into the Mosconi Cup. They needed, if Europeans are practicing for 2 weeks, they needed to go and practice for 3 weeks ahead of it. You know what I mean? Because they're that far and then some still behind. The Europeans broke better from the beginning. Jason stomped on them. You know, that win from Sky, I thought was in that team's match it gave me a little bit of hope. It gave me a little bit of hope. It gave me a little bit of hope in Sky, and that, okay, he's going to be out there in singles. He came out, shooting pretty strong. I think it was a break and run on his. Beats Josh, I think, in that match as well in the teams. But I mean, it was awful. I mean, just awful, Ray, from the beginning.
Yesterday you had asked me about the preparation stuff, and I'd mentioned that systems develop outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, if I'm thinking about how I would want to prepare as a team, if it's not at least 3 weeks, then we're not looking at an honest attempt really to get ready. So 3 days, before the tournament, you're just hoping that you show up and play well. But, Team Europe, who you would argue doesn't need it, was there for 2 weeks, and they look like polished, sharp, and ready. I mean, Pius and Moritz looked comfortable in certain spots. And, if I'm the team, I'm thinking like, the disrespect to put up your 2 rookies at the end, because you just feel like, oh, well, it's a free roll for them because we'll be up and winning and it'll be comfortable. And then if they get going, then
good point. It was disrespectful. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
It's like if I'm looking at the roster, I'm like, oh, he thinks he's going to be up 3-0, and it's just a free roll where it doesn't matter,
But here's the deal: you went up against guys who, and I posted on Windows Open. I said the enforcers, right? Which is kind of a dumb thing to say because Tyler's not really known to be an enforcer, in my opinion. But like when you start doing this, and you don't do this, and then you leave balls up, that's
which is, again, yesterday I'd mentioned we're not in a position to have, like, when you get into these talking games, it's all about leverage, right?
Yeah.
We have no leverage,
no leg to stand on, Ray.
Yeah, nobody has a thing to say. And you know what you do? You don't say a thing. You let your cues go do the talking for you, and you put the work in, and then you earn the ability to have leverage. Right now, as a team, we have not, in good faith, earned any leverage. So there's no reason to talk. If you lead with ego and insecurity, you're giving these guys. It looked like Jason just had to push one button, and just start the dismantling process. And honestly, if you're not mentally strong enough and capable enough to fade those little things and still be poised and prepared, then you're not prepared to be out there, really. You know what I mean? You're not, that's not it's you can't be so mentally weak that just a little thing is enough to set you off. You have to be firm and ideal. And what that speaks to me is that there's a lack of identity. And a lack of like security in the unit as a whole because of lack of preparation, And so
I think the bottom line for me, Ray, is that it trickles down from the top, in my opinion, and I'm always going to believe that, especially in a team type setting. The leader's going to go and set the standard, and when you defer to the team to pick your 5th guy when that's your responsibility, right, and then you defer to the youngest kid in the group to go and run the practice room, like, outside of being a cheerleader when they're walking out, what is it that you're doing then if you're Sky? Because I think a lot of the blame has to fall on his lap. Now I know he can't go and make balls, and he certainly wasn't the one who missed that 9 ball at the end. He was the one that missed the whatever it was 4 ball on the side. All these things, you know what I mean? And I understand all that, but what part of this has to fall on his plate then? Because you can talk about preparation, but if you are in the position to be the one to set parameters and guidelines and discipline and expectations, and if you can't be firm on it because they're your boys and you don't want to make them mad, or you're afraid that they're going to go get all aggro on you, or whatever the case may be, then like should you not be in that position, or am I just crazy here, Ray?
No, I think if you're going to embody a leadership role, the responsibility is entirely yours. I mean, that comes with, if you're going to wear the letter C, it means something, and it should mean something. There should be a very high standard put in place, and your responsibility is to guide that forward. And I've said this in the past. whenever we're in a sports situation, or in sporting good, sporting competition, like, that person who's the captain, the coach, like, they're responsible for the trajectory of the team. And if they're not getting results, then that person gets replaced. Like that's just how that goes as far as that position is concerned. And in a lot of respects, it's hard enough to go out there and compete at a high level. It's
Sure.
hard. It's hard to go do that enough, like just to get your body and your mind and everything ready to just go execute, but to also have your mind over the top of the whole organism of the team and making sure you're supporting each player's individual needs and how those needs gel together for the rest of the team. That the whole team has that requires a staff. Like there's coaching staffs that go do that. It's not just one person. Europe has the luxury of having, again, turn this into a procedure. They have this like well-oiled machine that they can plug and replace pieces and just continue the processes. And everybody just says, whatever you say, coach, whatever you say.
But part of why that is, Ray, is because of culture
Yeah.
and leadership, and
Oh,
they respect they respect the hierarchy, because there is a hierarchy. Where in Team USA, they want to make it
Clear.
seem like it's all of us making these decisions.
Yeah.
But and it's a proven method that they're just continuing to go and say, like, to your point, plug and play, bring in the next guy. But you know what? Everyone's going to respect that. Hey, when you walk in through these doors or you want to put on that jersey, there's a standard here. And either, there's no shorting it whatsoever. Even to the point to where they may, a couple of those guys, and the ones who ended the day in PS and Moritz, may have left some money on the table in terms of the International Open and how that'll affect their 2026 run to being on that team, And so that's how much they were willing to go and buy into the commitment that it takes to go. And I'm not saying 3 weeks is the number or 2 weeks is the number, but like certainly that wasn't the number, for at least not for the Americans, like that.
Yeah.
That did not work. And heavy is the head that wears the crown, right?
Yeah. And I think when the whole of Team Europe said our focus is the Mosconi Cup, like we're going to work together and polish up and get tight and work on the things we need to do, gel together, get that extra time together as a team, work those things together and train. Like that was a definitive statement of like, this is what's our priority, right? It's the Mosconi Cup, right? And building this culture amongst these guys, making sure we're prepared so we have trust, accountability, and rapport, and all the things you need to go out there and go play. And Team USA decided we're just going to go, compete and not spend those extra 2 weeks, or that extra week together training and focus.
Do you think it's because they think that they don't need it, or that they don't want to shoulder the financial aspect of it, or they're just not committed to it? Like they're content in being second place in a 2-man tournament?
I can't really speak to that. I haven't had those conversations with them. You know what I mean? It's up to them to decide. But obviously,
what does it look like as a fan?
I think to me, it's ultimately it's unacceptable, right? Like there's no excuse, really. If this is the most important thing to you, then your actions should reflect that. If it's not, then your actions already reflect that, right? And so if it's like, well, we'll practice for a few days, we'll get over there. Like I'm not getting to London 3 days before. I'm not traveling 5, because it takes your body 2 or 3 days just to adjust, really, to get to where you just feel normal again, So I'm going to push a week between that, at least, so that I'm there. Now, obviously that is a financial burden, right? There comes cost with that. There's time with that. There's family with that. There's a holiday that they would have to table. But
then you don't need to play the event, is what I would say.
Yeah, I know that there's players like for me, like I'm like, hey guys, see you next year. Thanks, guys. Thanksgiving is like my least favorite holiday. I could care less. I don't eat turkey at all year. I don't purposely eat turkey ever. So I'm happy to like say, hey, maybe we shift this around. But that's something else. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Look, I said this, at the end of a few Mosconi Cups, where it was like, it's an embarrassment. And it's
embarrassing. I've heard that word said a lot today. I've had that people messaging me saying that this is brutal, this is embarrassing, on both sides. I have English friends like messaging me, this is embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like they're embarrassed for us, that's not good.
And
I think
I feel
there
like
needs
that, and even by them saying that, it's reflected in fan attendance as well. Because whether you're looking on from a social media side of it, as far as fans getting excited to it, or even asses in the seats that has notoriously and infamously and gloriously sold out year after year. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to say it was bare bones, but it was. You can certainly tell that they were struggling to sell tickets for today, and I'm sure it'll be the same thing for tomorrow.
Yeah. I yeah, I mean, that's up to them. I know in Orlando this would be sold out. Orlando last year was just completely packed, and there's a huge pool community in Florida, a lot of supporters, a lot of people in the southern states that would come down, and people that travel because it's hospitable and then go to Disney and have family time too, and just a great place. So I think next year you'll see the attendance be stacked, because we had over 3,000 people this past year, and it
I don't
was
think
it
it
was
will if you
bumping.
go out there with those same five guys. I'll tell you that, right?
No, I think a lot of people are, and I've seen people comment about, oh, we need one guy or this guy or that guy. It has nothing to do with individuals, it has everything to do with culture and standards. And when you're working with a team environment, everybody's so fixated on the individual, and nobody wants to seriously sit down and build a team. And until we as a country take ownership over this dynamic, we're just going to continue to fall short. The players that are in contention for the Mosconi Cup have already pre-established that they're going to commit to that culture because it's established. They know if we just do this, it's an extra 20 grand because those guys aren't doing it. You know what I mean? Like they're not even getting close to competing. So they're fighting extra hard. There's extra incentive for those guys to try and make the team. And you have standouts coming in. The Americans don't have the luxury really of kind of winging it without the culture established, without that extra guidance. So, losing Johan from the team side of it, creating that structure as a captain, somebody who's so decorated and had all that experience and really could kind of garner the respect and the authority of the players. We needed that because he established that culture in an environment that it wasn't already built.
But if you were to ask him, what are you implementing from that era? There's nothing there. There's no remnants of what he put into place during those 2 years in Johan that's still sitting today.
No. I guess the seeds didn't take root. I don't know. To me, I honestly, I look at character a lot more when it comes to a team environment stuff. I need people who are 100% committed and willing to commit and submit themselves to this process and like shelve the ego. Like David's a great example of somebody who just shelves his ego and just says, I'm going to do whatever we need to do. You know what I mean? Like just put me in wherever, coach, I'll help and support. And he's super experienced player. And, they're working on building up the young guys. Moritz is looking comfortable. Peaches is going to, but they also had their moments where they look shaky, but that team dynamic is very established and they look like they have an identity. Us, it kind of feels very fragmented so far.
They look mentally weak and they don't execute, and then you think about the optics of them not preparing, and then you think about how all those them being fragmented are going and getting exposed, match after match, ball after ball, miss after miss, and it snowballed and it snowballed quickly, and even in that team match, like I said, when team match, it is what it is. You lose 1-0, so be it. There's no way to kind of like to go and clock that one way or the other, in my opinion. But then you jump into the first doubles match, and with that, I want to just go ahead and jump on into it. They sent out their big guns, Ray, in Federer and SVB. How do you think they performed against David and Filler? I think they ended up losing like 5-3 in the overall.
Yeah, 5-3. I think Shane handled the moment well, and I think he was kind of carrying a couple times there. There was a couple spots where, Federer just does not look himself in this position, and I'm not exactly sure why. I think he definitely feels the pressure of wanting to play well and hasn't learned how to just settle himself in. He also hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities early, like in the team match. They put him up first, right? And so Shane lost the lag. Shane lost the lag again in the doubles. And if I'm them, like these are details that we have to work on. We have to be nailing our lags. Like we have to have a standard for the lag that we're within.
It was close. Diamond. I mean, like, and I know close doesn't go and cut it, Ray, but when it comes to the lag, like it wasn't at least it wasn't to me where you were out of line.
He he hit it with a Louisville Slugger both times. Okay, he went, at least he touched the back rail. That's good. But you got to be landing on that back rail, and that's something you can develop a touch for. I've struggled with it in the past, and then eventually you kind of find this like touch and rhythm for it where you can get really close. David lagged against Shane both times actually. They lagged together to start the team match. And then they both lagged again in the doubles, and David won both those lags. Neither one of them were hit very well, but like in a race to 5 alternate break where everything is so crucial, you're splitting so many hairs, you have to put emphasis on the lag because it's going to give you that double hill break. It's a huge shot.
Well,
It's a huge shot.
You even saw how much they value that in that matchup, because if you overheard the conversation between David and Filler, as it was, I think it was 4-3. David was saying, listen, or Josh was saying, we got the benefit of having the break if it goes hill. And David's like, I don't want it to go hill. And Josh is like, well, yeah, I understand that. But, just thinking about all the scenarios.
Yeah. They're aware that they have, it's like in chess, you're playing with white pieces. If you win the lag, you're playing with white pieces and you have the advantage, you have the advantage slightly. They're responding to you. You understand? And so if you get that extra break in a race to 5, you could do nothing wrong and lose. You both could do nothing wrong and you can win, So they have to nail that. I think Federer looks incredibly uncomfortable for as good as he has been in his career. He just continues to not look like himself. And so I don't know what it is that needs to happen for him, but he needs to have a come to Jesus talk with himself and with the team. Whoever is going to be in there is going to be the emotional leader. Like they have to engage him. He's got to come out and execute and hit shots like he knows how to do. Like if I'm telling him,
who's going to tell him that in that locker room?
Every spare moment that I can, I'm going to remind him, you're the best player on the planet. Just go play pool. You know how to do this. Like you're a world champion.
With that attitude, right? It's probably why he doesn't want to fucking hear it, because he is the world number 1. He is the best player on the planet, and he knows how to do it. Somebody who, I don't want to go to Fargo rates, but even if you look over to the left and the right, Shane's not that guy to go and say anything to anybody, so he won't be him. He's certainly not going to go and respect it from a guy like Scott, who doesn't have anywhere near the resume that Federer does. So, like, how does it get through? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, to me, it speaks to, like, again, lack of a broader. There's something else that's not right. There's not a gelled like cohesion there that is bringing out the best player in him. I know Johan is in attendance. I saw him in the audience. He posted a photo watching, but again, this is something that
he is developed. He did. He texted me earlier, and I asked him to come on the show because he texted me following the day. Did Coach Johan, and he says, "We'll get back to you. I'm busy working." So he's there coaching up somebody, and I'd imagine, because he does have experience with Pius, that it's Pius. But then again, he's got a relationship with Tyler. He's got a relationship with Federer, famously, and all those things.
Yeah. So, I mean, somebody in that locker room, it's only 5 guys that are in that locker room, has to come behind him and be like, hey, we need you to be able to hit these shots. Like there's a shot that he played off the short cushion. He made the 8 and got Shane frozen the 9. And I'm like, man, this is a tough shot that Shane's got to come.
Federer don't ever go and play the cue ball like that. Ever.
Never. You never see him get it, and he can execute and deliver the cue ball the way he
knows. To Shane's credit, Shane made the ball though, but still, but I get your point.
And it didn't look like a crazy, but like if you're a player on those conditions with those pockets and in that situation, that's a shot. Josh made a beautiful shot later on in the day, frozen to the side pocket. He just made it look like no problem, inside English, whatever, and came up table. You have to be able to execute and get quality time. What I am impressed about in that match particularly, and throughout the whole day, is how often Team Europe had Team USA pinned behind the ball, kicking or jumping. And I think actually, to our point, I think Federer has hit more kicks and jumps than he has hit like just regular open balls. Like I've seen Federer.
You're talking about contact on contact is what you're saying, like ball on ball.
Yeah, just frozen behind the ball, kicking or jumping. Having to hit a super jump shot, like a super high level Federer jump shot, or kicking, negative between 2 balls, having to bend the cue ball back, giving up ball in hand, or opening up the position for Team Europe. Team Europe, which is what I was mentioning yesterday, was that this game is won in the control. And everybody like thinks 9 balls but race to 5, you have no room for mistake. They're playing to squeeze you to death and suffocate you. Moritz had a beautiful safety at the end where he played, the ball up table and tucked them behind the ball. Like I'm just seeing these shots over and over again where they're running out, stick, running out, stick, running out, and then these guys are
even it
kicking.
was in this matchup when David and Fuller, it was towards the tail end of the match where Josh hit this ball with inside, and if you don't get good on it, I'll just play safe. Sure enough, he doesn't get perfect on it for an offensive shot and buried him. Exactly what they were anticipating.
Exactly. And so I think it magnifies the intensity of giving up ball in hand because it's such a short race. You're giving up ball in hand, and now the balls are open, and they're just going to run 5-6 balls. And so we have to. I will say, Team Europe is getting some better opportunities off the break, right? But they're securing them. They're getting the position.
I don't want to hear that shit though, Ray. You know why I don't want to hear it? Is because they prepared better. They deserve to get better looks post break because they've put in the time for it.
Yeah, they're not refining the break. They're executing the break.
Yeah.
Right. It seems like we're trying to find the break.
Yeah.
But that gets found in the iteration times, like in the training. If you're really putting in the work, then at the end of every day, you're going to hit the break for 45 minutes or an hour. You know what I mean? Like we're going to close the day with this, and get really dialed in and make sure that we're trying to get those looks. And it so happens that, you get those looks, the more time you put in. It's just weird how it works. You find this rhythm, and the more you practice, the luckier you get. So they're getting opportunities to keep control. So we have to improve, obviously, on the break. So even if we're not getting open position, we're securing that initial pin down, and
maintain the control. Sure. Yeah.
You have to. Yeah. You just have to. This is a 1-pocket 9 ball. It has to be that way. And it can't just be wide open, loosey-goosey stuff. And we have to execute. You guys can't be missing open 9 balls. We can't be missing open shots. There's a 6 ball Sky missed. There's a 7 ball that he cross banked that he missed.
That was a bad miss in that match, and we'll get to it here in just a moment. That was a really bad shot by Sky that ended up going in. But even on the note of misses, I mean, listen, there were opportunities in this matchup. David scratching early on to on the 8 ball, giving him a 1-0 lead. He missed another ball. I think it was on the side that Josh had set him up for. So there were opportunities where but it was basically like on a silver platter, handed to the Americans in order to give them that 2-0 lead. And even with that spot, basically, because it was a spot given the gift, they still couldn't go and capitalize. And there was never a point in that matchup, like I mentioned, where even with that cushion, thinking about it from the American side, where I thought like I felt good. I even when the Americans would have a shot, I didn't feel like they were a lock to get out. Where the Europeans, no matter what, I was going to be confident in where it was going to finish. Now, whether that ended with them making the 9 ball or them playing a good containing safe or a jam up, lock up safe, whatever, like I would be comfortable and confident in whatever position they were going to be left in. I couldn't say that with those 2 guys. And those 2 fucking guys, Ray, are SVB and Federer. Like those are very well decorated individuals.
Yeah, the individual game is not translating into the team game. I think Shane broke pretty good. I mean, Federer had a break and scratch, unfortunately, like that. Those things are going to happen.
That was a little chilly of a
a little chilly because he hit it. I thought he hit it perfect. Yeah. I thought he hit good speed, good tempo. The ball's coming across. He got the kiss, and the draw was still on the ball, and he just coasted up.
Federer did get a couple of unfortunate scratches. That I'll give you for sure.
Yeah, those little things in the vacuum feel horrible. So what happens is like the tension starts to build on each one of these little things, and then the pressure on top of it of like, oh well, these guys are firing back at us. Oh, we're down 1-0.
Well, and the ghost has a lot of ghosts in his closet, right? He's got a lot of demons to go and exercise there. That he hasn't.
Yeah, and this is unfortunately the only way out of that is through it. You got to look at the next inning as an opportunity to go through that, and so this is the best medicine. It might not feel like it is, but it is. So every match from now on has to just be 0-0. You have to have this short-term memory cycle and just approach.
I thought even given how much Shane could check out, because I always pay attention to body language when it comes to Shane, and I'm always looking at him. And I thought for the most part he was in good spirits, through 5-6 racks of that matchup. Now I didn't get to see him really much after that. Obviously, he didn't play anymore following that matchup. But like, if you were to in any other environment, Ray, like if you were to go and say this unit versus that unit, right? Those two guys versus these two guys, you're betting on those two guys who lost 5-3 all day, every day, you know,
Yeah.
whether, and so like, that's the part that's like, it's not 2 + 2 anymore because it doesn't make any sense, you know, but something between
Yeah.
the ears is not registering with these guys. And it's up to whoever to go and figure that out. And obviously individually, they're not at a point where they can solve that amongst themselves, you know, because
Yeah.
they've failed on that consistently.
I think a point to notice, David, Josh looks fantastic. Josh just looks like he belongs.
Big shot. I know he missed. He chopped one ball, but I mean, he was
But
coming with some big pressure, tough shots with position.
certain shots that he made, you're just like, man, this guy's unbelievable.
And I had questions, Ray, when I see him get down on that ball because I haven't seen him out there in 2 years. You know, I had questions, and then as soon as he hits it, like the old Josh that I know, he just rips any hope that you have of the Americans getting back at the table and thus losing that rack or that match, whatever the case may be.
You could really feel the value of Josh being in that position because David had a couple moments where he was like teeter-tottering, right? And Josh coached him through it.
David looked like he was steering a lot of balls, Ray, is what he looked like to me early on.
But like, so here's the value, right? Early on, especially, super critical early. When you have a player like David, who's a champion, but he's human, right?
Sure.
He's a human being. They all bleed, they all breathe, you know, like these aren't gods, you know, these are just normal people. They put on their pants the same way you do. You know, David was feeling he had the opportunity to start dogging it. So your job your job as the opponent is to escort him along the path to dogging it. You know, you have to be a faithful chaperone.
I'm good at that. Trust me.
All the way there. It's like, hey, let me just, you know, put pressure on you and give you the opportunity to flex and break. Because as soon as that happens and you punish him, now they start building an inventory of things to think about.
He's too savvy and veteran to go and fall for anything like that. You know, because he can even individually he can compose himself with decisions because he'll play smart.
Yeah. But the point is he's vulnerable at that moment,
sure,
in the beginning. So if you can execute from the beginning and put pressure on him, now you really put extra pressure on him to have to work extra hard to get out of that. And sometimes they can go into a spiral. And so, you know, it's unfortunate because they did not capitalize in that situation. And, you know, you let David get calm, and then now you saw him engaged and chipping away and making shots. And then Josh got him through, and Josh carried and did his thing. And then they
Josh with like a half a teammate at that point, you know, got them at 5-3 over the Americans' top two guys. You know, that was a gut punch to the Americans.
Absolutely. It's a big match. You know, all the matches are very valuable, obviously, for Team USA. They need to get started and get moving and building some momentum. And so now they're just up against it. And so tomorrow they'll start the team match. I think I heard a rule that the teams have to be a different order each day that they do each team match. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll see how
tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how they go and play that. I thought the Europeans played it well, and having Josh in that 3 spot, even though he ended up losing this guy, I thought it was. I like the idea of the Americans leading with Federer because you have to get those minor wins wherever you can, right? Those mental victories. Unfortunately, it ended up backfiring because of the brutal scratch, and then of course, you know, Jason breaks and runs of the first one. But it's like either way, I didn't mind the position of it. Whereas now, and especially if you're Sky, like, listen, you're in a really difficult position now, even more because of the way this day started and it ended. Because when it started in that team match with Tyler not getting out, and then in the middle of it, whenever Billy missed that 9 ball after that circus out, which was unbelievable, and then he ends up, you know, chopping that 9 ball. Couldn't believe that he missed that 9 ball, you know. And it's like, but they're already mentally fucked, you know, no matter how anybody wants to go and spin it, because, you know, they're tilted all the way, you know. And so and on top of that, like, their ceiling is not as high as the Europeans. So like David, even if David is going to get a little out of it or miss a couple of balls, his ceiling is so high where he starts at. So like even his B- game is going to be able to sustain you, which is basically what you got out of him in that filler doubles, you know. So it's like these little mental victories the Europeans are just thoroughly capitalizing on. They ended up getting a 2-0 lead. They go into that singles matchup with the two captains. Yeah, we talked about that chop on the bank that Sky had. Give me your thoughts on the way that match ended up going for them too.
Yeah, I think even the first break, Sky was overly emotional when he almost made that 9 on the side. He's like, "Get on the side," he was like,
"Oh, on the break."
Tell,
yeah.
You can tell he's like, it's extra personal at that point, and to me, that tells me Jason is, he did what he wanted. And he planted enough of a seed and poked the right button to kind of get him animated. So, I mean, it's good that Sky is engaged and he wants to win at every point, but I think he looked, I saw him play a near perfect match against Aloysius at the International. And Aloysius may be the best player in the world right now. He started off.
It's not a maybe. He's the best player in the world right now. Yeah.
Shooting just 1,000 for, raced the first half of the match, and Aloysius was right on his tails. They both played a beautiful match. But, Sky was on edge, probably taking a little bit of the heat and doing all this other stuff. And so he missed a couple balls. That 6th ball was, I didn't like, it was a shot he should never miss. I think he tried to stroke the ball across and back as opposed to just playing to the other side of the ball. And I felt like it was natural to stay on the other side of the 6. It's a 4-inch pocket table. Jeremy was saying maybe 3 7/8. It's pretty tight out there. And so you don't have a lot of room to maneuver. Like my table at home is that tight, and the cloth is worn in. So I know
when I can get away with. Yeah.
And so Sky's table at home is also that tight. So I think it's just interesting that he tried to move the ball extra, And so a lot of those little things that come up, and it's like, I don't know if it's a focus issue or just,
Look, I think how Jason came out swinging gave you the world of optimism, and then the scoreline further just pumped him up. Was the spinach for Popeye there? And then you started off, and like CPM says in there, that little emotional outbreak by Shane, and it was towards Jason's sword, from what I understand, which is Federer's manager, podcaster, all the above. That they were getting into it, barking at each other. There was some words exchanged. I'm not sure if Jay was calling him outside. Obviously, emotions were running a little bit high, and Jason, whatever Sword was trying to do, got into Jay's head because he was fired up, he was focused, he was pissed off. But the problem is with that guy is that the more you inspire him, the better that he plays out there. He's not like these other guys that are Americans, where if you get in their head, they're gonna go and shrink on you, and they're gonna go and rattle, and they got poor technique. That gets exposed whenever the pressure's high. Like Jason he thrives on that. You see him just get more big chested, but the difference is he follows that through with the end of the rack.
Yeah, Jason's cue ball speed was great. That match, he seemed to be on the right side of most every ball. Played a really beautiful safety behind a 3 ball against Sky. Left him frozen up, tucked up, strong. And I think he just played a quality match. He doesn't need, again, this is a guy that does not. You just need to ignore this guy. Leave him alone. Don't poke him.
Panozo's texting me, so he's up and watching. He's saying he heard it was Allen. So maybe it was one of the. I didn't see Allen there. I saw video from
part of the corporation.
Yeah, part of the corporation, basically. But I saw the reason why I said Jason was because I seen a video from Ara, who's Jason's wife, in a Matchroom thread where she had a video and it was of Jason. And if you know them and you've been around long enough, there's a history there. There's some animosity there. That there's no love lost there. And that's why when you saw Jason going and talking with Federer, that's like, listen, if you bring your friends over to the party and your friends go and act the fool, I'm going and talking with you because you're the one who brought them over, And so, that's like, but it didn't work either way. Like, even if you got in his head, which you did, enough for him to go and have an outburst, it didn't matter because the dude still Sky. Even though Sky had that one game against Filler where you could maybe pull some positives out of it, and that match with Jason, you can tell he was scrambling. You can tell he never got comfortable. His cue ball was all over the place. He was never in any kind of rhythm. He was always just trying to get found, but he was always just lost, it seemed like, out there on the table.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't look super comfortable. And of course, it's a race to 5. You don't have a lot of time to get comfortable, but Shaw seems to find a way to get comfortable. And, the opportunities, again, if you give up ball in hand, it's, you're going to let a guy who knows how to run a ton of balls get going. And, somebody mentioned that they, you can't really knock Jason's strategy, because his tactics seem to be working. And I'm like, no, he's doing everything he needs to do on and off the
It's
table.
low hanging fruit is the thing, and it's so obvious. And if you're the Americans, like you you aren't mature enough to realize otherwise or to own it, And
Yeah.
you got this like you got this like really immature way of thinking that you know everything when you don't know shit is what I'll say, because Jason, he's wily like that. He's very smart in that aspect, and he knows he don't even got to do much. He doesn't even have to
Yeah.
do much for these guys to go and react.
It was so innocuous. He says, "Oh, we should maybe have a 6th player." You know,
No,
like
subtle.
it'd be cool to have a 6th
Just
player,
jab
and
'em.
then like, yeah, because you have this other guy, who and then that's it, and then all of a sudden it was like, and then he throws in the, it's like if you're gonna fall for that, then
Well, they
you
fell
can't.
for it, and it worked. And listen, when Shaw called out 4-0, like Mike Field says in there in the chat, man, let me tell you, I was like, listen, you're writing a check your ass can't cash, but they cashed it. Signed, sealed, and delivered. They cashed it. The check did go and clear 4-0. I couldn't believe it, Ray, when I'm watching it. And whenever it came time to the final matchup of the day, and you think that, like, if you're an American fan, okay, this is right where we want them. Everyone's been talking about rookies this, rookies that, even guys who in Tyler and Billy who are doing all the talking during the press conference, at least all the personal like jabs, they got, like you mentioned yesterday on the show, ball in hand choice of who you get to go and play. Right, you get to play 2 rookies. The problem is those 2 rookies are the most decorated out of all those 5 guys wearing the blue and the yellow. Right, they've had the most success out of any of them, and so, but you're supposed to go and capitalize. PS made some mistakes. They gave him opportunities.
Was another guy who again showed like there was an opportunity to put pressure, but every time there was that opportunity, then there was a missed ball or
And they were
an
bad
opening.
misses, Ray. It wasn't like they were tough shot misses. They were like
open naked misses. Yeah, that are just pure sellout. Yeah. No
unforgivable
yeah.
misses. Like you are never in a million years supposed to miss that ball and that opportunity, because they're basically giving you a rack. And as a professional in that arena where you say you belong and all these things, like you're supposed to go and follow through. And these were chops that bad players go and miss, Ray. And it was not just a one-time deal.
Yeah, I think both guys really struggled. I think Billy's not looked himself. But again, like a lot of this stuff comes down to sharpness and preparation, and like there should be a very clear understanding of like how we shoot certain shots. Like we shouldn't have to review the basics. Orange pocket table. You have a little bit of an angle on this 9 ball. You shouldn't be stunning that ball at speed. With the highest deflection possible. I mean, like the cloth is you roll that ball in smooth and easy. And, if you miss that, then, well, you have another problem. But, picking the wrong stroke for certain things is just like, to me, that's a like a 101 error, and this is not level 1 stuff. It's not kindergarten here. This is AP level, thesis stuff. You got to be out here performing well.
You expected what happened after a certain point, and that was the part that was embarrassing. That was the part that was sad. Yeah. That was the part where like you just knew. And then like even whenever he gets down on that ball, and it wasn't like he had the whole cue ball. He was close to his work. He had a good angle. Like he just missed it, completely missed it. And then he drags himself back to the chair. But it was so many things leading up to it, and that was where like because of all the shit talking and everything else, you had to go back it up. And especially given the fact that you had the most optimal matchup that you can go and ask for, if you're those 2 guys in particular, and Tyler and Billy, and I know it didn't end so well for them in the team matchup. So that was the last like taste in their mouth before they got out there. But man, Ray, they're going to sit there and stew for the next, whatever, the 16 hours until they go back out there. and just all they're going to be hearing in between their ears, everything online is all about those misses that led up. And it was like, it's one thing if you just get outplayed, right? And they just destroy you and they just jump out on you from beginning to end and you don't get, any breaths in. But they had a lot of bats to the plate in this in this day.
Yeah, there was opportunities, and that's what makes it disappointing, I think, for American fans. Is like it's not even like you broke and scratched every time, and they just broke and ran out every time. You know what I mean? It's like you had open chances to make the matches. Again, every time there was an opportunity to stymie momentum and build momentum for yourself, there was a let off. And so you never actually get to begin. You never actually get to begin to impose yourself in the match. And so that's when it could become demoralizing, and that's when it really matters. Your self-talk, it really matters. Like this foundational approach to having a strong identity. If you don't have it, then you're just vapor. You're out there kind of floating around, and they look like they're floating around right now. They don't look like seasoned professionals. They look like amateurs in many respects. I think that's frustrating because this is such a high profile event, and I think they obviously aren't happy with it. They demand a lot of themselves. They don't get to.
Do they though? Do they? I don't know if I can buy into that part of it. Just considering the preparation. I mean, maybe like it sounds good to say that, and maybe that they all want to win. Sure, like but they're also not putting in the work and the effort. And they're not starting off ahead in the year either, like the Europeans are. They're not starting off with a 6-year run on them on top of that, and having that mental.
Yeah, the Europeans have compound interest building in their favor right now, for sure. Mentally for sure, and then just experience wise, and those guys just come out comfortable.
This is why I said yesterday when it comes to like those two guys going and barking the way they did, it was like, man, it's not smart. It's not smart to go and wake up that bear, for one. And number two, I just didn't think they got the game to go and back it up on top of that. Now I would have probably thought 6-5 on the money, probably. You're laying, taking the favorites in the Europeans. But I would have highly valued that experience factor with the Americans. If you just looked at that match in a vacuum, not seeing those misses on the team side of it, but everything that could go wrong just went wrong for him, and now it's just going to sit there with them overnight. And the other part of it is that given the scoreline now, and just what we've seen year after year, because this is not like 1 year, this is a rerun for us. This is every December we get this same showing from the same group of guys. But I want to ask you, because these two guys in particular, that we're going to see them, I'm assuming, tomorrow. How do you think that Federer and SVB are going to go and respond, especially given how on Shane's side of it, he can go and check out a little bit, not a little bit, he can go and check out a lot of it when it comes to this event.
I'm hopeful that I kind of feel bad for Shane, honestly.
Great. I agree.
Because I feel like he, to this point, has done his best to stay engaged, and I haven't seen any like super negative check from him. And he's also, this generation's guy, and I feel like by not putting him in a position to win one, you're letting him down and you're wasting time for him. And if I'm on the team, I want to find reasons to go the extra mile, and I want every single individual to find reasons to go the extra mile for the other guys. I feel like having this desire to go do it for them is a foundation to building. If everybody has that desire for everybody else, now you have a closed fist. You have something you can go strike with. If you have a bunch of open fingers that are dilly down, they're going to get chopped off. You understand? And so for me, I think Shane, so far, I mean, he's looked positive, and he's not played poorly. He hasn't had opportunity outside of the team and doubles. And
I'm just saying, given what we've seen in years past, because if they were to continue, let's say they had six matches today, right? You would have, I think anyway, just given what I've seen before, you would have seen a different side of Shane compared. Now, I'm with you in everything you said. I think up until this point, he did all that he can do, didn't go and deliver.
Shane is the person I'm least worried about right now, to be honest with you. I'm not worried about Shane right now. I think I think Federer needs to go execute. He needs to go be him. And I think we need to support Billy. And Tyler needs to shrug off today. I think Tyler
Can he?
cares. I think Tyler cares quite a bit. I think the goal for Tyler,
does he care too much though, Ray?
Is getting him to where he's relaxed. Because I've seen Tyler relax and he plays awesome when he's relaxed and like clipping. Man, he executes well. He's got great fundamentals, all that stuff. But I think he was in a moment at that last match where he was feeling the compound interest of all the negative stuff happening at the end of the day, and then like really feeling the burden, and then maybe feeling cautious and tentative because he saw Billy struggling earlier and not trusting that Billy was going to be there to execute behind him. And so then that's really negative place to be, So I think everybody has to have some short-term memory. I think tomorrow you have to just start as if you're 0-0 and get after it. I think you need to put in the work, whatever you need to do. I mean, Federer is really good about routine. Like he has his routine. Go watch any of his vlogs. He knows what to do to get himself ready. He goes to his physical warm-up stuff. He goes to the gym. He does his stretching. I'm sure he has what he needs for himself, but mentally between the ears, he's got to get focused on right now, and really be present, executing, and forget the nonsense. Like forget this other stuff. I saw him hit an 8-ball playing with Shane. He hit a stop shot and left Shane like a tough shot where Shane had to come with one, And I'm like, whoa, I guess Federer just said, hey man, go make it. But like the stroke that he delivered to make the 8, I was like, it looked tentative.
It wasn't confident. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, even though he made the ball, I'm like, man, what's going on in there? Like what's going on here? So we have to work on that. Like, obviously you're climbing uphill now, you know what I mean? So, again, by the time you're at the show, it's time to show. So it's going to show what you've prepared, you know what I mean? And so Team Europe looks like they've prepared execution, right? So now it's up to each individual somebody has to be the igniter, the starter switch. I think Sky, it's interesting to me that Sky keeps not going first in the team event. Like I like him starting in that position. And I think Shane should have been second and maybe Federer third. And because Sky won his first game when he went up there in the teams, it's splitting hairs, but like Sky is the guy who can go up there and win a point right now. Like of all of them, like he's the one who I think can do that. And then Shane is one of these guys that can kind of push the boulder and get going. And once you start building a little momentum, man, like these things can swing, so you have to be in a vacuum, 100% dedicated to this one ball, this one match, like for the remainder of all of day 2. If you can build that habit in day 2, then maybe you can mess around. But, you're going to have some interesting lineups tomorrow because Jason, I don't think he put out his best lineup, obviously not today,
No, I don't think so either.
So I think there's going to be some strong singles stuff. So you're going to get more pressure, and, Jason started by putting himself up first. I understand Sky going up, but I view day 1 as a doubles day. So I would have prioritized 2 strong doubles versus 1 super strong singles. And, tomorrow will be more singles, right? So you'll probably see.
You're going to see Federer. You're going to see Shane. You're going to have. I think you're going to have to. I think if you're Sky, I don't know who you try to protect if there's a third one, which I'm assuming there will be. And I know we had I know they had the.
They have the schedule, but I don't know if they've announced the order of play.
And they stop after whatever. There's 3 matches tomorrow. They may not even get to fourth match or to a fifth.
Day 2 is a team match, then singles, doubles. So
okay,
potentially 5 matches tomorrow, and then all players have to play in 7, 8, and 9.
Singles, doubles. Okay, so then who are you putting up if you're? Obviously, the team match is going to be who it'll be. Who are you putting up in the singles then on number 6 for both teams?
I think they're going to put out Josh.
Okay.
I think Josh because they're expecting they're going to put up Shane. They're going to put up Shane or Federer.
Shane ain't going to want to play. Shane, especially if he anticipates it, he's not going to want to play against Josh.
But I know but they're going to put up Josh.
Yeah.
You know, I think, right? I mean, wouldn't you?
Sure. Yeah, you want to keep on, and he's the guy to go do it. He's the guy to go and not let up an inch.
No, this is like blood in the water for a shark.
Yeah, the match will be over in 32 minutes. You know.
Yeah, so somebody's going to go up there, and so somebody's going to have to beat Josh. But now Shane, to his credit, last time he played Josh in the Mosconi, hammered him, and they were also losing.
All right,
but
so you got Filler Shane in that matchup. I think I'm going Filler Federer in that matchup. Where you got in the doubles then on match number 7?
The thing is, the thing is for me, like Sky, I understand the logic of Sky putting up Federer first in these scenarios, but Federer has yet to prove himself yet.
Sure,
you know what I mean. He hasn't earned a keep yet to be the guy to be first in these scenarios.
I get what you're saying. Like
in environment,
in theory, sure, but amongst them, he has, because he's the guy leading. He's the guy leading in the practice room.
I understand that, but I understand that, but in this environment, he has yet to arrive. He just hasn't. Outside of the Mosconi Cup, he's Federer, but here he's, I don't know, Maxime Dudanets or something. Somebody else. So I would like Federer to arrive, and if they're going to keep putting him up, I guess that's fine. And maybe they do put up Federer first because he probably plays better early, and he likes that. Shane does like the bias in the evenings, and maybe they don't care. Maybe it's just like singles. But I think they're going to probably put up Josh because they know they're going to front load, and like Josh is your killer. So.
And you know what? Even if Jason went what I would consider like unorthodox in day one, even if they went a different direction, I'd still be fine with it, because there's not anybody, there's no matchup right now where I'm nervous if I'm the Europeans. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't care. Yeah. I don't care who it is. I don't even care if it's a rookie against Federer. I don't care. I'm good with it. Yeah. I think I got a pretty good chance.
Well, last year we had that. We had Mickey playing that match against Federer in singles, remember? And Mickey.
There you go. Yeah.
Mickey almost came back and he called the foul on himself.
Yeah, remember? Yeah, sure. You're right.
In that scenario. And so it was very, very tenuous for a little while. So as much as I understand the logic, we have to also not think about this as like a spreadsheet. You have to look at what's happening in real time and make your best guess based on how they're behaving and how they're reacting now.
You just got to, at this point, you can't even go out there and try to play that mental side of it. You just got to get a goddamn point no matter what. Like, I don't care. These guys no matter what, everyone's going to have to go and show up. Everyone's going to have to swim. It's time. You want to go and talk all that shit? You want to go and be out here? Well, guess what? Then now there's no hiding. There's no hiding because you're down 4-0. Everybody has to play. Everybody has to go and get something crucial. And especially if I'm Sky, I'm putting Federer out there. Go out there. You play the first one on teams. You want to be the head of the team, and I think he is to a lot of extent. Go out there and get us a W,
Yeah, and honestly, it would be a pump up obviously for the team, but that first team match is going to be crucial.
Yeah, sure.
They have to go out there and win that first team match.
What do you got
just kind
of in that doubles match number 7?
Well, it can't be the same doubles pairings, right?
No.
So, who did we play today? We played.
David and Filler,
right? SVB Federer, and we played Billy and Tyler.
Yeah.
Billy and Tyler.
You're gonna have to go heavy if you're the Americans. Are you sending out Sky and Shane, your World Cup of Pool teammates out there?
Yeah. So if I'm gonna do, but all 5 players have to play.
So that means Tyler or Billy are gonna have to play singles then. Because all players must play at least one match in 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, you can't probably do both. So Sky and Shane would be good in doubles, but then if you go Federer first, then you would do Sky and Shane, and you probably do Tyler, and then you do Federer and Billy if you go that way, because you have to play all 5 guys in those 3
and 7, 8, 9. Yeah. I think that's good for Billy because you got to get him. You got to get him on the upswing. They got some chemistry together between him and Federer. I don't mind that. Yeah. I don't mind that matchup if I'm the Americans.
I think that 6-7 is an opportunity to play to play a player back to back.
So
if
then
you do
filler Shaw then. Filler Shaw. If
you could do that.
If you can, I'm going filler on 6 and then filler and Shaw on 7 against what I would expect to be a strong Shane and Sky on. And if you can, I love that strategy. If you can play them back to back, hell yeah, go and do that. You know?
You can do that in 6 and 7. So maybe if it's a European version, it could be filler Shaw, or if it's a US version, it could be like Shane and Sky, something like that, or Federer Sky, something like that.
Have they teamed up together, Federer Sky, before?
Not yet. Federer and Sky, no.
I'd actually like a Federer. I'd actually wouldn't mind a Federer Tyler matchup because I feel like stylistically they're more they're similar.
They are very. That's who I would have played my first doubles today.
But if you're going to go with that back-to-back matchup in 6-7, then I'm going Federer in singles followed by Federer Tyler. I'm thus protecting Tyler as well with having Federer there and giving them some a bubble.
Then you do Shane, and then you would do Sky and Billy.
That's a good one. That'd be a good matchup.
That works.
Yeah.
For the Americans. So if you go Federer, then you do Federer Sky. I'm sorry, Federer
Tyler.
Federer Tyler. Yes, correct. And then Shane, and then Sky and Billy.
Yeah.
That
I like that.
That works.
Yeah. Sky and Billy one will be interesting because that's a lot of fans will be interested in seeing. I'm not even sure. Listen, they got 5 matches stacked up for tomorrow. I'm not sure we're going to get to 5, Ray. I think the most we're going to get is 4 because they may end up calling, especially if it continues down the road of getting bloody.
Bloody, yeah.
So
3.
How many points do you think the Americans get away with tomorrow?
They have to win the session, but right now, I mean, they just got to win one match, So we'll take the team match and see if we can win that one and go from there. I think that's got to be their complete focus. They can't really worry about anything else than that team match. Yeah,
and that's the hardest one I feel like to even get any kind
of
traction on it whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, what's going to happen is that it's going to exemplify and magnify what's happening in here.
Well, see, then with that in mind, I would kind of take this Josh approach when like I was talking with David. It's just like, we got the break at Hill. What I would do is if I'm Sky, team match is going to be whatever it'll be, but I want to prepare my singles matchup with the guy who I know can handle whatever. It cannot be anybody weak whatsoever. So it's gonna. I think it's got to be Federer. And with that in mind, I think it has to be Federer in that lineup because anybody else, I'm having a lot of question marks, and it can't be Sky. So anybody else, I'm concerned and I'm not comfortable at all. So as far as picking up a solid point whenever you need him the most, even though Federer hasn't performed in the Mosconi Cup up until this point, all those things in mind. If you're gonna,
Fargo would agree with. Fargo would agree with you. Fargo would definitely agree with you.
I mean, look, some things just don't make sense when you add them up, and that's the chaos that the Mosconi Cup can be, and so you got to respect the route that Jason took. Obviously, it's reflected in the success they had in the scoreline. I think that if the crowd thickens up, they're going to continue to be more Europeans on there who are just going to continue to remind the Americans as far as every little mistake that they're making. I think you got to try to just keep their spirits as high as possible, Ray. But I think they're in a lot of trouble. I really do.
Yeah. This is not good. I mean, you're giving momentum to a freight train. And Jason went up there, won a singles point. We have a few other champions up there. Maybe we see the Germans tomorrow.
That'd be sick. Yeah. That's the thing. Like if Pius to me would be the only one where I would still have a little bit of question marks because of that missing that in there. But Moritz looks calm, cool, and collected. He looks like he's been there for 6 years already.
Moritz looks clean. He only missed that one ball, but it was missable ball.
Yeah.
It's a tough, longer distance pot, but he looks dispositionally very comfortable. And that's, he's had a class season, so he's been playing well. And we haven't seen Josh and Moritz yet play either. And those two guys obviously have a lot of pedigree with the World
Listen,
Cup.
we also ain't seen Josh and Filler play together, or I'm sorry, Filler and Jason play together either, and that's box office. Two lefties with a lot of wins underneath their belt as a unit.
Firepower.
Yeah,
And Josh is just so easy to doubles with. It seems like he just doesn't matter where you leave him. He doesn't have to, he does what's necessary. That's all, and he just executes really well, makes some incredible shots and plays good touch. I mean, the guy's a genius. So,
well,
yeah, I would say, it'll be interesting to see what Jason does tomorrow as far as that goes. He I think they're going to have a lot of confidence and they're just going to continue to play comfortable.
What's the score after day 2?
I don't know. Right now we haven't won a point, so I'm not trying to speculate about 5. They got to win 1 point tomorrow.
I'd guess 7-1. I think they'll call the last match, and I think that's where it'll be at. Listen, we're gonna do a show tomorrow once the lineups come out, so make sure and keep your notifications on. Appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us, even though it was a little bit late. Yeah, I don't know, man. I hope it turns into I got excited at the beginning, genuinely, where I was like, I want to watch, just like I have been every year, right? But then from 2-1 of the doubles with Filler and David, the wind got knocked out of my sails, and I wanted to come back, because
the vacuum started sealing up. It felt like sure, and and then Jason went out there and played comfortable, and then got engaged, which. If I'm anybody, if you care about a Team America, leave the guy alone. Don't talk, just turn around. Don't even look at him. You know what I mean?
And Jay?
Yeah, leave it. Don't talk to that guy. Leave him alone. What are we doing?
Yeah.
You're not doing Team USA a favor. I know it feels like you are. You're not helping anybody. The guy is a rocket ready to take off at any moment. He's looking for a lighter. You know what I mean? Don't give him a lighter. So leave that guy alone. And then, if I'm Team USA, I'm just, listen, we got to get to fundamentals here. We got to get to execution. We got to get to making balls and
fundamentals. Right. I mean, listen, the guy who I think is the most fundamentally sound is Federer, which he missed a long, tough, I think it was like a 3 ball. Another cue ball was on the cushion. It was a tough shot. Missed that one. Another guy with great fundamentals, and Tyler, the last shot that we saw him play was a butchered 9 ball. Sky, we saw him chop a bank. Billy, we saw him miss. I mean, I'll go on and on.
The bank was kind of cool. I said the bank was straight in.
It was a hanger. I knew he was going for that bank the whole time. He was real flat on that ball. The bank was the only way to play.
He got position.
That's what I'm saying. I'm kidding.
The 6 ball he made was really nice. So
when he opened it up, when he went whatever was the rail first and smoothed that ball in.
No, that shot was also really, really nice, and that's an undervalued shot, especially on the new cloth.
On the conditions, yeah.
You have to have that in your pocket. It's something you should be working. I don't know how many people work that shot, but if you get flat on a ball in tight pockets, new cloth down there, you got to be able to play rail first and make the ball. And he
hit it beautifully too. He did.
Probably the best shot he hit all day. But there's also the 6 ball. He chopped up the cushion. It was kind of close to the cushion, and he followed the cue ball up table and got on the 7. Tremendous shots. There's some good stuff there. He's got to settle down. I think Sky will brush it off and hopefully just get back to making balls. We gotta shore up, some stuff with the other guys, with Billy, Taylor, and Federer. They all need to clean things up and not miss balls. You can't be missing balls, especially when those other guys are just coming for your throat, And we got to fight for that open position and keep control early. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear crying about the break and all this other stuff.
Well, there was some decisions by Tyler where he was just leaving wide open balls and half-assed, and I thought his decision was weird to me, at certain spots when he went for that bank shot where he just kind of didn't play any protection on the cue ball, didn't really play the bank with conviction either. It was just some things that just didn't, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. There's a lot. And then it seems like the Europeans are playing very, very simple and effective safes. They're not coming with some wizard shot. They're just chipping this ball up table and sticking you behind this ball, and they're finding those opportunities. Of course, they're, again, they're feeling good. They're thinking good. They're executing good. These things start to build. And thankfully we have a night to kind of sleep this nightmare off, and hopefully have some better results tomorrow. So
look, you guys, we'll be live once the lineups come out tomorrow. Come hang out with us. We'll see you guys and gals.